All right, so we're here with two, Ron Waples and Bill O'Donnell. You guys are harness racing history. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Like, have you guys accepted that? You know, you guys are both kind of retired, right? Do you still work with the horses, or
Oh, a little bit, but very little. I don't drive anymore. Jog the odd one sometimes.
just jog the odd ones?
Yeah.
I mean, is you work with your son, Randy, or like when do you go and jog a horse, or do you just show up at anybody's barn and be like, listen, I'm Randy, you know, I'm Ron, and I do what I want. So give me a horse to jog.
Well, I do that when I'm away from home, but when I'm home, Liz tells me what I'm going to do. And
Oh, okay.
No, I just, we own, I got a 2-year-old that's going to hopefully qualify in the next 2 or 3 weeks. And then we had 2 trot and colt and a trot and filly with Wayne Henry. They're done for the year now. And I have 1 broodmare left and a filly that'll sell next fall. So we're still...
Okay. So you're still kind of in it. And Bill, you're just fully here, Cosa.
Yeah.
When was the last time you jogged or drove one? For these Goshen Hall of Fame races, things like that?
That's it. I bought a colt, a 3-year-old. I left him in New York a bit, and then he got off and didn't need a little break, and I brought him home. That was a couple of years, 3 years ago now. That's about the last, and I did him, you know, every day. And then with the association, it's pretty busy at times.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can't call your shots, right? I mean, there's meetings you got to run to and stuff. So I just figured this keeps me busy enough as it is.
How was that adjustment for you guys? Like going from top of the sport to doing one thing, and then you got to find something else to kind of navigate through.
It didn't happen overnight. That's
didn't.
the thing.
Okay.
By the time it came,
Yeah.
it was welcomed.
Okay.
I think, you know, you're driving. Well, you start out, you become a good driver because you drive good horses. You become a bad driver because you drive bad horses,
Okay,
right?
that's fair enough.
And that's what happens, too. I mean, I remember my uncle told me that years ago. I thought it was me, but he put me in straight that it wasn't me. It was the horses I was driving. And he was right. He said, you'll become a bad driver again, too, once you start driving bad horses. And as it slowly goes down that way, and you're not in demand, then you do something else and, you know, fool the horses, train a few and stuff. And then this opportunity came here for me. And
you see it in all sports where guys, you know, go up and down, and it's hard to go from one to the next.
Yeah.
So same thing with you, Ron. Kind of a long transition, which was nice.
Yeah, I would say so. But where I was lucky, I always tried to listen to my elders, so I listened to Bill.
Oh, okay.
And he said, you know, what you'll find is one time he said, they'd ask you if you would drive. He said, now I go and ask them if I can drive. So that's kind of the way it is. I didn't really quit. They just quit me, as he says.
yeah.
So we're here, Breeders' Crown Week. This is the first time it's at Mohawk, all of them. It's been here, up and down. Now, cool thing when the Breeders' Crown started in the 80s, first year, it was at 1 track per event.
Yeah.
So you guys were a staple of the start of that. So leading up to that, when you first heard of the idea of the Breeders' Crown, was it just another stakes race? Was it a new idea you guys thought was interesting, or what was your, like, did they ask you, hey, if we have it at 8 different tracks, is that going to work?
I think we thought it was pretty cool, I think, then. I mean, you were traveling every weekend. And, you know, there wasn't elimination in the final the week to week. They were going 2 heats in, too, right? So if there had to be elimination, you did it all in one night. And it was, everywhere we went, if you got there'd be enough guys, you get a private plane.
Okay.
The races were early because they were on ESPN. So 8:30, right? There'd be the races would, it was pretty good. We'd get back home that night, so it was just a day's.
It was just a day trip. And I think they flew, like, I mean, they had in Edmonton, they had them in Los Alamitos, they had them all over the country, Rosecroft, Pompano, you know, some of the early years, Garden State, some of the tracks that are old and gone now. What's the one in Montreal? Blue Bonnets, yeah. So
Free State.
Right. Yeah. So I think that they flew the horses also, right? Like when they went to Edmonton, they just kind of So it was actually okay. It's not like you had to take the whole trailer, and like you said, it was all one night eliminations or heats. Yeah. So it actually was probably a nice weekend trip for most of the horses and people.
For us as just drivers, it was easy, right?
Yeah.
But shipping your horse, you know, stuff like that, and the Hamiltonian Society going there too. So Tom and Bob Rosberg, I think his name was. He was the camera guy, the ESPN guy. You know, he had to take a whole crew. Right. So And I guess when they consolidated them, I think the first was Pompano, right?
First was in Lexington.
Election
Oh,
was
was it
Yeah.
first? No, I mean the first all in one day.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
93, where
Yeah.
they all just
Yeah.
because Pompano was getting a lot of the 2-year-olds, I
Yeah,
think.
they were there anyway.
Right, they were there anyway, so they just kind of. The '93 was. I mean, it was different nights, but they
Yeah.
were all.
Yeah.
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 I think, when the people that come up with the concept of this here, they had the foresight that this was going to be like the Academy Awards, if I may say, of harness racing. And I think if you look back on it now or look at what's coming in the next 2 nights, this is our best. We have the best horses, the best drivers, best trainers, maybe the best owners too, So I think whoever had the foresight, it came true for them, at least I'd like to think it has.
Seeing it evolve for 36 years, I mean, we're coming into it tomorrow night, like you said,
Yes.
and tonight. How do you think it's evolved? Like, do you like the current concept of it? What would you like to see? What are some things we could add to it? Are you happy with it? We're happy that it's at Mohawk, which is nice.
I think it's going to be. History will tell us, how it was. But I think the 2 nights is tough, like with the tent, with selling the.
It's selling tickets.
The Saturday night sold out quickly.
Right.
Friday night not so much. So you got 2 nights of it. I like to see the one, and I understand why they do that too.
Yeah, different. I mean, I think Hoosier did 2 nights as well.
Yeah.
I think they did it more even, where
Yeah.
it was Phillies and Mares on the Friday, and Saturday was
Colts,
the boys. Yeah. Well, except for Hanover when she was the only mare on the whole field, and she just destroyed the boys.
Yeah.
And I think if you look back on the racetracks that have hosted the Breeders' Crown, on what their presentation they made, as far as the fans and the owners, the different, if you will, presentations or tents and put up, whatever, that to me is just kept getting better, And does it need to get better? Probably. I don't know, because we're in a very competitive world now.
I think we could always improve. Everything's
Yes,
got to improve.
yes.
Are we partial because we're here in Canada that this is going to be the best Breeders' Crown ever?
In our minds.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the top Hoosier, it's going to be tough. I mean,
Yes.
I'm not saying we're going to probably bet a lot more here, but as far as putting a show on, they did a heck of a job out there, and our guys are working hard at it too.
Yeah.
They set the stage,
Which is
They
good,
set
right?
the bar,
Yeah.
absolutely.
You want competition.
Yeah.
If you had just driven in every race, against a bunch of schlubs, and you won every race, would you still be as happy?
What do you mean? You think I didn't?
Okay.
No, but you're right. Saratoga, you get lots of accolades for it in Saratoga. Go, listen, really, the majority, there was only a half a dozen guys that did it for a living there. We had a lot of General Electric mechanics there that used to drive and stuff, which is fine. I didn't mind them, and I signed for their license too. I liked them, because they had to learn, and I was already a little further ahead. But when you go to the Meadowlands, you're racing against the best of the best. So I liked it. I like that much better. You're right.
You liked it, yeah. All right, so let's
I like the competition.
1984. Let's start off with a bang. I think the best race leading up to the 1984 Breeders' Crown must have been Nihilator, right? Was he the major horse coming into that year?
Yeah.
Out of all the horses in the Breeders' Crown,
I would say,
Oh, yeah.
him and Am Nearest. I think she was too, right?
Yeah.
She was the best 2-year-old filly. But the Nihilator race that was on Friday night, and 2 days later was the Edmonton race.
right?
So, luckily for me, that I got a ride from Pittsburgh over to Toronto after the race, because I was going to have to go back home with the guided group, which I didn't really look forward to that, because the champagne, I don't know, did you guys open the champagne on the way home? They had a bucket full of champagne on the way there. I went, this is a no-man's
That's not gonna be-
Yeah. So I don't know if they drank it or not and saved it maybe, but when I went out there, I mean, I guess I never heard of Dragon's Lair. Hadn't even heard of him. And we went out there, and Nihilator had missed 3 weeks, not for any other reason than, Billy scheduled him that way. And it was his 13th start. I mean, he was tired.
As a 2-year-old.
As a 2-year-old,
Yeah.
And real races. I mean, he didn't race in, some fair track.
Right,
I mean,
and
he
now
raced-
wears a 2
Yeah,
just
exactly.
as a tune-up, yeah.
He never raced anything in his life other than a 3-year-old open and stakes his whole life. So when he get out there, he just was having a bad day. I mean, everybody has bad days.
And this was at the Meadows.
At the Meadows.
Right.
Twice he got beat 3 times in his life. Twice were at the Meadows.
Twice were at the Meadows.
Yeah. Is
that because of maybe Roger Houston calling?
I couldn't hear
bad
him.
call.
I couldn't hear him. I don't think the horse could either. But he did win he got beaten. He won his elimination with Breeders' Crown. He got beaten in the finals, fair and square. Yeah. And Dragon's Lair, they prepped him for that race, and it worked for them. He won, and that was the only thing he ever won in his life.
Is that like going with that horse? How many races were heats? Meaning, like, how many of the major stakes races back then were heats? Because, like you said, and Jeff has said this plenty of times, he trained for that race. He would go multiple heats. He'd race on a normal night and then go another heat. So he was prepping for this race. So how many of, we know the Little Brown Jug, but this was a 2-year-old colt pace. But, was the Meadowlands pace? Were some of these 2-year-old races, did they race heats, or was this one of the only heats that they did?
The International raced heats. The Lexington, they raced 2 heats twice.
Okay.
I don't think Delaware did the
standard most of the Breeders' Crowns, when they started, they didn't go heats, did they? I don't remember.
No, if they had divisions.
Divisions.
And that was one of them.
Right, and Nihilator won one, and then Dragon's Lair won the other.
Right.
Heat element.
Yeah.
So they come in for the final.
Yeah.
So we're, Ron, as you're kind of on the outside, and there's plenty of times when, you're third or fourth best to another horse, and this horse is a superstar killer.
Right.
What's your guys' opinion as a driver, like watching, you're in a race with a heavy favorite? Is it awe? Is it, I'm trying to beat that horse, I'm trying to just finish behind that horse and hope he has a bad day? How do you guys handle that as a driver? Dealing with a heavy favorite and you're third or fourth best.
I can tell you how I handled it when I went to Meadowlands. When I went down there, all I seen was Campbell and O'Donnell win all the races, so it seemed to me like if I just got close to them and followed them, I was going to get some money anyway, whether I beat them or not. So
you were just kind of hoping that generally, if they have an off night, I'm there to pick up the paces, but you're not going to tear this horse down just to try to beat him. You're going to try to hope that, hey, this second and third is still a lot of money and is still a lot of prestige with it.
I wouldn't necessarily say that. I just thought that I'd get a good trip if I followed one of them, because they seem to do all the winning. So just follow them. They're going to drag you around there.
So going into this race, we got Dragon's Lair, who won the elim, and I'm going to pull up the final now. And again, Nihilator won the elim. How's Nihilator in the elim? Was he solid?
No.
He was not good.
This was dull. And Billy had trained him at Lexington maybe the week before, in between races there. And he looked okay, but he was just, he gave him a little break between then. He raced the Lexington one heat, we scratched in the second heat. And because he didn't want to, he wanted to save him for the Breeders' Crown. So he did everything right. He freshened him up, and the other horse was just really on the top of his game.
All right, so when was the last time you guys watched this? Ron, were you in the race?
No.
No, okay. No. Were you there?
No.
Okay. No. Why not? You didn't fly? Is it just because they didn't have, it was the one event, so you didn't have one in, so you didn't fly? You were probably racing somewhere else in Canada?
I would think I'd be racing up here then.
Okay, so were you watching the race?
Oh, I watched it, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Were you expecting an upset, or no, just kind of business as usual for Nihilator?
Well, somebody told me Jeff Mallett had been practicing pretty good all week, just out jogging horses and everything else. So, I thought Bill would have his work cut out for him, because Jeff was right on his game.
So we're going into the and feel free to give your own announcing.
I never saw this before.
Annihilator, Pershing Square, Dragons
I think I didn't even see it that night.
You just were.
I get out of there.
Did you know Jeff was going to be gunning out for the lead?
Yeah.
Just one horse had an exceptional night and the other horse was an off night. That's all. Sure as hell wasn't that he was any better horse.
No.
You're third now, right, Bill?
Yeah.
Okay. You know they're rolling.
Yeah.
Big time. Was it 26 and 4?
20, yeah.
Yeah, in those days. It was...
He had to work his way to the front, too.
Oh, yeah. No.
He didn't turn him loose.
No. See, my horse was laboring.
I mean, 26 and 3. You. I mean, even though Nihilator was, like you said, okay.
Yeah.
You got to be happy at this point. Like they
Oh,
just
yeah.
rolled.
I was
You're
laughing.
just chilling third.
Yeah.
You're thinking like you've seen this 100 times.
Yeah.
You know,
but this,
1,000.
this horse, my horse, he was laboring even then. Like,
Okay.
going there.
So-
Like I said, the both times he raced there, make excuses for him? Yeah, the track was hard. He
Yeah.
had bad feet. So can I make excuses for him? Not really, because he got beat. He won, he got beat, and then he got beat, and he won.
Sure.
And he won the second heat of the Adios, and then in the third, like the race off, by every rule that I ever raced against, when you have the winner of the second heat or the first heat has the rail of the second heat, and the winner of the second heat has the third heat.
Right.
No, they didn't do that.
They didn't do
Marauder
that.
had the rail, and I had the 2-hole. So what's the sense? He's not sound anyway. He's hurting. What are we going to do? Go around there and brush from the head to stretch the wire for what? For
Right.
the other horse to beat you? He'd beat me probably anyway off a slow mile, maybe. So we just said, scratch him.
Yeah, scratch him. So we're going to the quarter.
Into the stretch, passing it down the first time, racing second, Pershing
See,
Square.
Dragon's Lair too. He's one of those type. He didn't have a big brush, but he could go forever.
Wilson Wizard is 6, Warren Kessel 7, Flight of Fire trails the field. They're tightened to bunch up, going to the half.
I forgot Wilson's Wizard was in there.
Yeah, was he?
That was my horse, yeah.
Who drove him?
I did, I guess. I didn't think I was there.
Oh, you were in it. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, Wizard was the same age.
Yeah, yeah.
See, now I'm just laughing here at this point, right? They just move him over and get him. That horse got to be getting tired. I thought, but I was wrong.
Yeah, you're just chilling.
Yeah, I was just riding along. But for Broadway Express to go by him, with a good trip like that, he was a good horse too. He won Peter Haughton after that.
But there's none of them comparable to your horse, really.
No.
In the year. Give it all the year.
So you're I don't know if you're really trying at this point, but Dragon Lair took off on you a little bit.
Well, he was done and so was I. But
Right.
basically, we were both done. I mean, he just kept on marching.
He just
right?
kept on marching.
You can't take nothing away from him. He won a big
I say
race.
he's a horse that won a big trip that night, and your horse was flat that
Yeah.
night. That's all there is to it, really.
The outside Broadway Express, less than an 8. It's Dragon's Lair by 2.5. Here comes Nihilator and Broadway Express. Dragon's Lair, Nihilator, Dragon's Lair wins the Breeders' Crown. 154, 1/5, another world's record.
Okay, so that was 36 years ago. Still one of the most, I would say, famous
Yeah.
harness racing photos.
Especially if you come from Pittsburgh.
Yeah, you're
I
especially.
got a lot more famous ones than that in my house.
Right, yeah.
So is Ronnie.
Yeah. So, I mean, looking back at that, as far as the Breeders' Crown as a whole, that's kind of, I mean, what do you think would be better if Nihilator, like, the top horse won it, or is it kind of cool to see an upset like that? It really kind of puts the Breeders' Crown in a, hey, anything could happen.
I think you're right. I think it did. You know, it's 2-year-olds. You had eliminations in the 2-year-old trot. You had an elimination in this one. Where the 3-year-olds, very few. But you're right. The next year, people go, "Wow, Nihilator got beat, right?" Or so and so got beat.
I think if you're going to get beat as a 2-year-old, right?
Yeah.
Right? You don't want to get beat in your 3-year-old year.
Yeah.
Because 2-year-olds, like you said, it's 13 races.
Yeah.
It's tough on 2-year-olds is still learning.
Yeah.
3-year-olds is when they become super. And I think at that point, Nihilator was already a name.
Yeah.
But what you were asking about the town, Pittsburgh, that's a Pittsburgh crowd right there, and you see how excited they
Yeah.
were.
Look at that.
So it's the same thing if you come to Ontario and a hometown boy gets a job done, it's going to be the same thing.
Yeah.
You
Right.
know? And that's what makes it great that one horse doesn't win them all. And these things all made to get beat. There's not one yet that I know of that's went without getting beat.
Even some beats, as great as he was. he
Yeah,
got beat,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
He'd win 20 out of 21.
Yeah.
That horse won 35 out of 38. Nihilator. And Nihilator, look at him. He got beat.
Yeah,